With the NFL season right around the corner, fans and analysts around the league have begun to wonder and question just exactly how the upcoming season will play out. While everyone is questioning what teams will disappoint and surprise us, along with who will win the Super Bowl, there's also the very important question of who will win the MVP award for next season. Every year, there will be a handful of players who are favorites to win the award. Guys like Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, and Tom Brady. But what about the players that some people would call controversial or dark horse candidates? Welcome back to our channel, where today we're going to be going over our picks for some controversial or dark horse NFL MVP candidates for the 2022-2023 season. Sit back and enjoy. First up is Derek Carr. Last year was certainly a season to remember for the Raiders, and for most part, not in a good way. John Gruden was forced to resign, Henry Ruggs was arrested with a DUI, and Damon Arnett was released after threatening fans with a gun over social media. Yet despite all the drama, the Raiders shockingly made the playoffs, and Derek Carr had a lot to do with it. Carr threw for a career-high 4,804 yards to help the Raiders make just their second playoff appearance in the last 20 years. Carr has been one of the most underrated quarterbacks since entering the league, but this year could finally be the year that he gets some recognition. The Raiders shocked the world by trading for superstar receiver Davante Adams from the Green Bay Packers to buff a pretty decent wide receiver room to one of the best. Hunter Renfrow was a terrific receiver last year, but now that Carr has Renfrow and his old college buddy and Davante Adams to throw to, don't be surprised if the Raiders, and especially Derek Carr, make a lot of noise this coming season. Next up, Tua Tagovailoa. Tua is by far one of the most controversial quarterbacks in the NFL today. Some people say that he should be nowhere near an NFL field and needs to be cut. Others say that he just needs the right weapons and has the ability to be a true superstar. We're betting on the latter here and expect Tua to have a monster season. Tua will have no excuses not to perform this year after the Dolphins traded for superstar speedster Tyreek Hill. Not to mention, Jalen Waddle is entering his sophomore year and being one of the more electric rookies in last year's campaign. Add Mike Gesicki and his hands made of glue to that list, and you have one of the most potent offenses in the league. It's boom or bust for Tua this season, and almost everything hangs in the balance not just for him, but the Dolphins as well. Tua was an incredible talent in college before his injury, and if he can stay healthy, he has the ability not just to lead the Dolphins to the playoffs, but elevate himself into the conversation as one of the best in the league. Next up, Matt Ryan. Now, you may be counting on Matt Ryan after being lackluster the last few seasons and switching teams, yet history has told us not to count out a veteran on a new team. Tom Brady won MVP in 2017 at age 37, and Matt Ryan just happened to turn 37 himself. Ryan seems like a near perfect fit for the Colts, a team that has been struggling to find a starting quarterback to bring them back to the playoffs after Andrew Luck retired out of the middle of nowhere. While you might think it will be difficult for Ryan to adjust to a new system, the Colts have the third easiest schedule according to Sharp Football Analysis, which should greatly improve his stats this year. While some might think that technically that doesn't qualify you for the MVP award, you have to remember that the Colts receiving room is certainly not one of the best. Yet Matt Ryan led a Falcons team to 7 wins last year, where his number one receiver was Russell Gage. The Falcons also didn't have a running back who rushed for over 650 yards, so Ryan was really hung out to dry. Now on a Colts team with a slightly better receiving core and one of the best running backs in football in Jonathan Taylor, Ryan could very easily find himself in the MVP conversation. Next up, Deebo Samuel. As a non-quarterback on this list, Deebo Samuel is already at a disadvantage, given that the last player outside of a quarterback to win MVP was Adrian Peterson back in 2012. Plus, seeing that Cooper Kupp only received one MVP vote after racking up almost 2,000 receiving yards last year, it wouldn't be shocking to see another quarterback win it next season. Yet, given Deebo's unique skill set, he could certainly make a case for himself as an MVP candidate. His ability as both a runner and receiver makes him a dual threat option that defenses have still not been able to figure out. Samuel racked up 1,770 yards from scrimmage last season, along with 14 touchdowns, and this season could potentially benefit him more. Given the controversy at quarterback within San Francisco, it's looking more and more likely that Trey Lance will be the starter. While Lance could develop into a bona fide starter over a period of time, it once again means that Deebo Samuel will ask to do a lot of the heavy lifting before that all happens. And depending on how successful the 49ers are in this upcoming season, he could improve upon his numbers from last year and slot himself into conversation for MVP. Next up, Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson has become one of the most electric young receivers in the NFL since his entry into the league in 2020. In his first season with the Minnesota Vikings, Jefferson caught 88 passes for 1,400 yards and 7 touchdowns. His production was nearly good enough to win Offensive Rookie of the Year that year, yet he was narrowly beaten out by Justin Herbert. In his second year, he put up even better numbers, catching 108 passes for 1,616 yards and 10 touchdowns. These numbers are impressive enough on their own, but when you factor in that his quarterback is Kirk Cousins, who's mediocre at best, and their starting running back is Dalvin Cook, who also struggles to stay healthy, it just shows how dominant that he's been in his position. With new head coach Kevin O'Connell, Jefferson could get even more targets than he already gets, which would in turn make a better case for him to win MVP. Minnesota could potentially surprise some people this year with a new head coach and potentially turn the tides from the last few seasons. And Jefferson could be the reason for change in the tides in Minnesota. Next up, Jameis Winston. This one is by far the biggest stretch on the list so far, but knowing the NFL, you can't rule anything out. Coming off a season-ending ACL injury, it would make sense to not even think about Jameis Winston and MVP in the same sentence, especially when Winston hasn't ever finished top 3 in MVP voting in his career. Yet before his ACL injury, we saw Winston like we'd never seen him before, as an efficient playmaker. Winston went from throwing 30 interceptions in 2019 to just 3 last year, along with 14 touchdowns while he was healthy. His play led the Saints to a 5-2 start before his injury took him out for the rest of the year. Coming back this season, Winston and the Saints have a new and revitalized receiving core, which includes the likes of Michael Thomas returning from his ankle injury, the drafting of Chris Olave, and the signing of Jarvis Landry. Even with the loss of head coach Sean Payton, the Saints should be a lock for second place in the NFC South behind the Bucs. And with both the Falcons and Panthers most likely being contenders for the top pick in next year's draft rather than the playoffs, it makes way for the Saints to find their way back into contention. If that does happen, expect Winston to be leading the charge for New Orleans. The players on this list are certainly a long shot for the MVP award, but if last season taught us anything, it's that the NFL is full of surprises and can shock the world. A new season brings a ton of excitement and anticipation surrounding the next MVP. Will Aaron Rodgers three-peat as the NFL's MVP? Could Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson win their second title? Or could someone like Justin Herbert win their first MVP title at a very young age? It's possible that all these top-tier players get a good shot at winning the MVP title, but don't say we didn't warn you if you hear one of the players from this list in the MVP conversation or even holding the trophy by the end of the year. But with that, that's all the time that we have for today's video, so thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so that you never miss any of our content. Also, be sure to leave some comments in the section down below. Thanks again, and we'll see you guys next time.